Caitlin Clark just did something that has the entire internet losing its mind. And no, it has nothing to do with basketball. It has nothing to do with a three-pointer from the logo. It has nothing to do with the WNBA. What Caitlin Clark just did involves the most controversial Super Bowl halftime show in American history, a performer who half the country wanted banned from the stage, and a single social media action that sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. Now, I need you to understand something before we go any further. This isn't just some celebrity reacting to a performance. This is Caitlin Clark, the woman who has built her entire brand on letting her game do the talking. The woman who has dodged political landmines, sidestepped controversy after controversy, and refused to be dragged into culture wars that have swallowed other athletes whole. She stays quiet. She stays neutral. She stays out of it. Until now. What she did after Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show broke every pattern she's ever established. And depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, you're either going to love her even more for it, or you're going to feel completely betrayed. But here's the part that nobody is talking about. The part that makes this whole thing 10 times more significant than any headline is telling you. There's a reason Caitlin chose this specific moment to break her silence. There's a reason she did it the way she did it. And when you understand the full context, the political firestorm, the backlash, the pressure she was under from both sides, what she did becomes absolutely jaw-dropping. We're going to break all of it down. Every single layer. But first, let me ask you something. Drop it in the comments right now. Do you think athletes should stay out of politics and cultural debates? Or do you think they have a responsibility to use their platform? Tell me, because what Caitlin did is going to challenge whatever answer you just gave. Alright, let's set the stage. Because you cannot understand the magnitude of what Caitlin Clark did unless you first understand the absolute chaos that was surrounding Super Bowl 60. Super Bowl 60. Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. Seattle wins it 29-13. A dominant performance. A game that honestly was over by halftime. But here's the thing, and every single one of you knows this is true. Nobody was talking about the football. Nobody cared about the final score. Nobody was debating defensive schemes or quarterback ratings the next morning. Every single conversation, at the Super Bowl party, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, at the office the next day, every single conversation was about one thing and one thing only. Bad Bunny. The Puerto Rican global superstar. The most streamed artist on Spotify multiple years running. The man who turned the Super Bowl halftime stage into a 15-minute celebration of Puerto Rican culture, performed almost entirely in Spanish, on the biggest stage in American sports. And that decision, that single decision by the NFL, cracked this country in half. Now, what happened next with Caitlin Clark is something no one saw coming. And the timing? The timing is what makes this whole thing suspicious. But before I tell you what she did, you need to understand just how toxic the environment was around this halftime show. Because the level of outrage was unlike anything we've seen in years. And it started months before Bad Bunny ever stepped on that stage. Here's where this story takes its first dark turn. The NFL's original plan wasn't Bad Bunny at all. Their first call, their dream pick, was Taylor Swift. And on paper it made perfect sense. Taylor Swift is the biggest musical artist on the planet right now. She's broken every record imaginable. Her tour was the highest grossing concert tour in the history of live music. Having her perform at the Super Bowl would have been the safest, most crowd-pleasing, most universally celebrated decision the NFL could have made. But Taylor said no. And her reasons were actually pretty fascinating. First, there was the conflict of interest. Her fiancé, Travis Kelce, is an active NFL player. She felt that performing at the league's flagship event while being romantically tied to one of its biggest stars created an optics problem she didn't want to deal with. Fair enough. But there was a second reason. And this one is the one that doesn't get talked about enough. Taylor Swift reportedly did not want to perform for free. Now let that sink in for a second. The Super Bowl halftime show, the most watched musical performance on earth. The artist doesn't get paid. Not a dime. The NFL gets approximately $50 million from Apple to sponsor the halftime show. $50 million. And the artist performing? They get exposure. They get a platform. But they don't get a check. Taylor Swift looked at that deal and essentially said no thank you. So the NFL pivoted. And they pivoted hard. They went to Bad Bunny. And the moment that announcement was made, the internet exploded. Not with excitement. Not with anticipation. With rage. Conservative commentators came out swinging immediately. Megyn Kelly called the selection, and I'm quoting here, a middle finger to the right. Other right-wing media figures called it anti-American. They said having a performer who sings primarily in Spanish at America's biggest sporting event was a deliberate provocation, a cultural statement designed to antagonize half the country. And then it got worse, because Bad Bunny had already been a lightning rod for controversy for the previous 9 months. He had made headlines by canceling his United States tour dates. The reason? He said he feared that ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, would show up at his concerts and attempt to detain or deport fans who attended. Latino fans. Fans who might be undocumented. Fans who just wanted to enjoy music and could potentially be targeted. That decision alone made Bad Bunny a political figure whether he wanted to be one or not. To one side, he was a hero standing up for his community. To the other side, he was an activist using his platform to undermine American law enforcement. So now imagine this man, this specific man with all of this baggage, all of this controversy, all of this political weight, stepping onto the Super Bowl halftime stage. The performance hadn't even started yet, and it was already the most divisive cultural moment of the year. And then he actually performed. And what happened during those 15 minutes made everything before it look like a warm-up. But here's what you need to keep in the back of your mind. While all of this chaos was unfolding, while the entire country was at each other's throats over a halftime show, Caitlin Clark was watching. Silently, quietly, taking it all in. And she was about to do something that would put her directly in the crosshairs of the biggest cultural debate in America. Let's talk about what actually happened on that stage. Because the performance itself is critical to understanding why Caitlin Clark's reaction mattered so much. Bad Bunny didn't play it safe. He didn't come out and perform some watered-down, English-friendly, middle-of-the-road set designed to avoid controversy. He did the exact opposite. From the first beat to the last, Bad Bunny turned the Super Bowl halftime show into a full-blown celebration of Puerto Rican identity. The music was in Spanish. The dancers represented Puerto Rican culture. The visuals, the energy, the aesthetic, all of it was unapologetically Latino. It was 15 minutes of someone standing on the biggest American stage and saying, "This is who I am, and I'm not going to dilute it for anyone's comfort." And the celebrity cameos? They were stacked. Lady Gaga appeared. Jessica Alba. Pedro Pascal. Ricky Martin. Karol G. Young Miko. Cardi B. Alex Earl. David Gritman. It was a parade of A-listers showing their support, showing their faces, making it clear that they were aligned with what Bad Bunny was doing and the statement he was making. ESPN captured all of it in a single Instagram post on February 8th. Screenshots of every celebrity cameo. A simple caption listing the names. It was a standard social media post. The kind that gets a few million likes and some comments and then disappears into the algorithm. Except this post didn't disappear. This post became the epicenter of a cultural earthquake. And the reason it became a cultural earthquake has everything to do with one particular person who interacted with it. But before we get there, let me explain why the reaction to the performance itself was so extreme. Because it wasn't just regular criticism. It went all the way to the top. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, went on his social media platform and personally attacked Bad Bunny's performance. His post read, and this is a direct quote, "The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence." Read that again. The sitting President of the United States called the performance an affront to the greatness of America. Now, regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of how you felt about the performance, you have to understand what that statement did to the atmosphere. It turned a halftime show into a loyalty test. It drew a line in the sand. You were either with the president's position or you were against it. There was no neutral ground. There was no, "I just like the music." The moment the president weighed in, every single public reaction became a political statement. Every like, every comment, every share, every single interaction with any content related to Bad Bunny's halftime show became a declaration of where you stood. And that's why what Caitlin Clark did next is so absolutely insane. Because she knew all of this. She saw the firestorm. She watched the president make his statement. She understood that any public reaction would be interpreted through a political lens. And she did it anyway. What exactly did she do? Stay with me. Because the way this unfolds is going to change how you see Caitlin Clark forever. Now I need you to understand something about Caitlin Clark that most casual fans completely overlook. And it's the key to understanding why her reaction to Bad Bunny's halftime show is sending shockwaves through the sports world and beyond. Caitlin Clark is not just a basketball player. She is, without exaggeration, the most commercially valuable female athlete in America right now. Her jersey sales shattered WNBA records. Her games draw television ratings that rival men's NBA matchups. She has endorsement deals with Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, brands that collectively represent billions of dollars in corporate interests. Every single thing she does publicly is scrutinized, analyzed, and monetized. And here's the part that makes this even more complicated. Caitlin Clark's fanbase is not monolithic. It's one of the most politically diverse fan bases in women's sports. She has fans on the left who celebrate her for elevating women's basketball. She has fans on the right who rallied behind her during the controversial discourse around her rookie season, when conversations about race, privilege, and media attention turned her into a cultural symbol far beyond basketball. Both sides claim her. Both sides feel ownership over her. And both sides watch her every move with an intensity that borders on obsessive. This is why Caitlin Clark almost never makes public statements about anything outside of basketball. Her team, her agents, her advisors, they all understand that one wrong move, one misinterpreted comment, one social media post that lands the wrong way could fracture her fan base and cost her millions. So she stays quiet. She deflects. She smiles through press conferences and gives answers that could have been written by a diplomatic AI. She is a master of saying absolutely nothing while somehow still being charming. That's what makes this moment so extraordinary. Because for the first time in her public career, Caitlin Clark stepped into a cultural minefield. And she didn't tiptoe. She didn't hedge. She didn't do that thing where celebrities make vague statements that could be interpreted multiple ways so they don't offend anyone. No, what Caitlin did was clear. It was definitive. And it was impossible to misinterpret. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, she probably just tweeted something. She probably just posted a quick story. How big of a deal could it really be? And that's exactly what I thought at first too. Until I saw the full picture. Until I saw the context. Until I understood who was watching and what was at stake. Because here's the thing that elevates this from a simple social media interaction to a genuine cultural moment in women's basketball history. It's not just about what Caitlin did. It's about when she did it. It's about the environment she did it in. And most importantly, it's about who noticed. The reaction to Caitlin's reaction has been absolutely seismic. Major sports outlets picked it up within hours. Political commentators on both sides jumped on it. Fellow WNBA players started weighing in. And the conversation it sparked is one that women's basketball has been trying to have, and failing to have, for years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you through exactly what happened step by step. Because the details matter. Every single one of them. It starts with that ESPN Instagram post. February 8th. The morning after the Super Bowl. America is still buzzing. The takes are still flying. Every news outlet, every podcast, every social media platform is drowning in halftime show discourse. And right in the middle of all of it, ESPN drops that Instagram post. You've seen these kinds of posts a million times. A carousel of screenshots showing celebrities who appeared during Bad Bunny's performance. Lady Gaga, Pedro Pascal, Cardi B, Ricky Martin. All the big names. The caption lists them out with a few fire emojis. Standard ESPN social media content. The kind of post that their team probably spent 10 minutes putting together. Within an hour, the post has hundreds of thousands of likes. The comment section is a war zone. People praising the performance. People trashing it. People making it about immigration. People making it about Trump's response. People calling it the best halftime show ever. People calling it the worst. It was everything you'd expect from the current state of American discourse. Loud, angry, divided, and completely incapable of nuance. And then, quietly, without any fanfare, without any announcement, without any build-up, Caitlin Clark liked the post. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. She liked a post? That's it? That's the big moment? She double-tapped an Instagram post and that's supposed to be earth-shattering? And I completely understand that reaction. In a vacuum, a like on an Instagram post means nothing. Millions of people like millions of posts every single day without it meaning anything at all. But this wasn't a vacuum. This was a pressure cooker. Remember the context. The President of the United States had publicly called the performance an affront to American greatness. Conservative media was in full attack mode. The halftime show had been transformed from entertainment into a political litmus test. Every public figure in America was being watched to see which side they would land on. And Caitlin Clark, the woman who never takes sides, the woman who never wades into controversy, the woman whose entire public persona is built on strategic neutrality, she saw that post celebrating Bad Bunny's halftime show and all the celebrities who supported it, and she liked it. She didn't just scroll past it. She didn't ignore it. She actively, consciously, deliberately engaged with content that celebrated the most politically divisive performance in Super Bowl history. And people noticed immediately. Within minutes, screenshots of Caitlin Clark's likes started circulating. Twitter accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers posted the evidence. Caitlin Clark liked ESPN's post about Bad Bunny's halftime show. The screenshots spread like wildfire. And then came the reactions. And this is where it gets truly wild. Because what happened next split the internet clean down the middle in a way that even the halftime show itself hadn't managed to do. Caitlin Clark's simple Instagram like became arguably bigger news than the performance it was reacting to. And the reason why is something that goes much, much deeper than politics. It goes to the very heart of who Caitlin Clark is, what she represents to women's basketball, and the impossible tightrope she's been walking since the moment she became famous. The fallout was immediate and it was brutal. On one side you had the people who were furious, the conservative commentators, the right-leaning fans, the people who had adopted Caitlin Clark as their champion during the WNBA's internal culture wars, the people who saw her as the antidote to what they perceived as excessive activism in women's sports. These were the people who showed up in droves to defend her during her rookie season when she was at the center of heated debates about race and media coverage. These were the people who bought her jerseys not just because she was a great basketball player, but because they believed she represented their values. And now, in their eyes, she had just sided with Bad Bunny. She had just endorsed a performance that the president himself called anti-American. She had just taken a stance they never expected her to take. The comments poured in. Betrayal. Disappointment. Accusations that she had been gotten to. Claims that the WNBA's liberal culture had finally corrupted her. People who had been her most vocal supporters suddenly questioning everything they thought they knew about her. But on the other side, pure elation. Progressive fans, women's basketball advocates, Latino communities, people who had been skeptical of Caitlin Clark and the way certain groups had co-opted her image, they were celebrating. To them, this single like was proof that Caitlin wasn't who certain people had tried to make her into. She wasn't a political prop. She wasn't a symbol for any ideology. She was a 23-year-old basketball player who watched a halftime show, enjoyed it, and expressed that enjoyment the same way any normal person would. And that interpretation, that simple human interpretation, might actually be the most radical thing about this entire situation. Think about where we are as a culture right now. We live in a world where a basketball player liking an Instagram post becomes national news, where a double tap on a screen is analyzed like a Supreme Court ruling, where a young woman can't express the most basic form of appreciation for a musical performance without it being weaponized by both sides of the political spectrum. That's insane. And I mean that literally. That is an insane place for a society to be. But here's what makes Caitlin Clark's situation uniquely complicated, and why this moment is so significant for women's basketball specifically. Because this isn't just about politics. This is about the impossible position that female athletes are placed in every single day. Male athletes take political stances constantly. LeBron James has been outspokenly political for over a decade. Tom Brady was friends with Donald Trump and it barely dented his career. Male athletes are allowed to be political, to be neutral, to be contradictory, to be complicated. They're given room to be human. Female athletes? They get no such luxury. Every action is a statement. Every silence is complicity. Every word is a weapon that will be used against them by someone. And Caitlin Clark, because of her unique position at the intersection of sports, race, gender, and politics, feels this pressure more than almost anyone else in American sports. So when she liked that post, she wasn't just reacting to a halftime show. Whether she intended to or not, she was testing the boundaries of how much freedom a female athlete is allowed to have. And the answer, based on the reaction, is apparently not much. But the story doesn't end here. Because what happened in the days after Caitlin's like went viral is where this whole thing takes a turn that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. 3 days after the Super Bowl. 3 days after the like heard around the world. The news cycle has moved on for most people, but in the women's basketball world, the conversation is still raging. Sports talk shows are debating it. Podcasts are breaking it down. And Caitlin Clark's camp is doing something they almost never have to do. Damage control. Now, I want to be clear about something. Caitlin Clark did not issue a public apology. She did not delete the like. She did not walk back her action in any way. And that, in itself, is significant. Because the playbook for situations like this is well established. When a public figure accidentally wades into a political controversy, the standard operating procedure is to quietly unlike the post, Have a publicist release a vague statement about how the action was taken out of context and move on. Caitlyn didn't do any of that. The like stayed up. No statement was released. No clarification was given. And in the world of celebrity damage control, silence is a choice. A loud one. But behind the scenes, according to multiple sports media insiders, there were conversations happening. Conversations between Caitlyn's management team, her endorsement partners, and the WNBA's communications department. Not because anyone thought she had done something wrong, but because the reaction had been so extreme that they needed to assess the potential fallout. And here's the part that should concern every sports fan, regardless of your politics. Some of Caitlyn's endorsement partners reportedly expressed concern. Not publicly. Not in any official capacity. But privately, quietly, in the way that corporations always operate, through whispered phone calls and carefully worded emails. The concern wasn't about what Caitlyn believed or didn't believe. The concern was about the narrative. The concern was about the brand. Because in the corporate world, controversy of any kind, regardless of which direction it comes from, is a risk. And Caitlyn Clark is not just an athlete to these companies. She is a multi-million-dollar investment. She is a face on a billboard. She is a name attached to quarterly earnings reports. And any threat to that investment, no matter how minor, triggers alarm bells. Let that sink in for a moment. A young woman liked an Instagram post about a musical performance, and corporate boardrooms had meetings about it. This is the reality of being Caitlyn Clark. This is the price of being the face of women's basketball in America in 2026. Your every action is a business decision whether you want it to be or not. But here's where Caitlyn proved why she's built different. Here's where she showed that the same mentality that allows her to drain a three-pointer with 15,000 people screaming at her also allows her to stand firm when the entire internet is trying to tell her what she should think, what she should feel, and what she should have done differently. Because 2 days after the controversy peaked, Caitlyn Clark did something else on social media. Something that made the Instagram look like a warm-up act. And when the basketball world saw it, the reaction was immediate. What did she do? It involves one specific person, one specific message, and a level of boldness that nobody expected from someone who's supposed to be playing it safe. Caitlyn Clark went back to Instagram. And this time she didn't just like something. She commented on a post from a fellow WNBA player, a Latina player who had shared her emotional reaction to Bad Bunny's halftime show. This player had written a deeply personal caption about what it meant to see Puerto Rican culture celebrated on the biggest stage in American entertainment. She talked about growing up bilingual, about feeling caught between two worlds, about the pride she felt watching Bad Bunny refuse to water himself down for mainstream American consumption. It was a heartfelt post, a vulnerable post, the kind of post that, in this climate, takes genuine courage to publish. And Caitlyn Clark went into those comments and left 3 words. 3 words followed by a heart emoji. Love this. Proud. Well, this. Proud. Now, you can interpret those 3 words however you want. You can say she was just supporting a fellow player. You can say she was making a broader cultural statement. You can say she was deliberately aligning herself with a position. You can say she was just being nice. But in the context of everything that had happened, the presidential criticism, the conservative backlash, the corporate concern, the fact that her initial like had already become a national story, those 3 words were a thunderclap. Because proud is a loaded word. Proud of what? Proud of the performance? Proud of her teammate for speaking out? Proud of the cultural representation? Proud that someone was being authentic despite the pressure to conform? It doesn't matter which interpretation you choose. Every single one of them puts Caitlyn Clark on a side. And for someone who has spent years meticulously avoiding sides, that is a seismic shift. The WNBA community responded almost instantly. Players from across the league started reposting the comment, sharing it, celebrating it. Veterans who had been skeptical of Caitlyn, players who had felt that she received disproportionate attention, who had questioned whether she truly understood the culture of women's basketball. Some of those players publicly acknowledged her comment with their own supportive responses. It was, in a strange and unexpected way, a bridge-building moment. A moment where Caitlyn Clark, the player who some accused of being the beneficiary of a divided culture, became, even if briefly, a unifying figure. And that's where this story connects back to something much bigger than a halftime show. Something much bigger than an Instagram comment. Something that goes to the very core of what's happening in women's basketball right now. Because the WNBA is at a crossroads. The league has never been more popular. Television ratings are soaring. Attendance is climbing. Sponsorship money is flowing in at unprecedented levels. And a massive portion of that growth is directly attributable to Caitlin Clark. But with that growth comes pressure. Pressure to be everything to everyone. Pressure to represent progress without alienating tradition. Pressure to be political without being too political. Pressure to be authentic in a world that punishes authenticity the moment it becomes inconvenient. Caitlin Clark's reaction to Bad Bunny's halftime show pulled all of these tensions to the surface. And the question that nobody in women's basketball wants to answer, but everyone is now being forced to confront, is this. Can the WNBA grow into the mainstream juggernaut it wants to become if its biggest star is only allowed to exist inside a carefully constructed box? The answer to that question is going to define the next era of women's basketball. And what happened next might give us the first real clue about which direction things are heading. Here's what most people missed in all the noise. The detail that flew under the radar while everyone was arguing about politics and Instagram likes and whether Caitlin Clark had committed some kind of cultural treason. Bad Bunny himself responded. Not publicly. Not in a big headline-grabbing way. But quietly, in the way that things happen when you're at the level of fame where Bad Bunny and Caitlin Clark exist. According to multiple reports from entertainment and sports media outlets, Bad Bunny's team reached out to Caitlin Clark's team. A message of gratitude. An acknowledgement. An invitation. Details are scarce. Neither camp has confirmed anything officially, but the implication is significant. Because what it suggests is that Caitlin's reaction didn't just resonate with fans and fellow players. It resonated with the man at the center of the controversy himself. And think about what that means from a cultural standpoint. The biggest star in women's basketball and the biggest star in Latin music, connected by a single moment of authenticity in a world that begs public figures to be anything but authentic. That's not just sports news. That's not just entertainment news. That's a cultural moment that transcends both industries. But here's the layer that makes this even more fascinating from a women's basketball perspective. Caitlin Clark's brand didn't suffer. Despite the initial panic from some endorsement partners, despite the backlash from a portion of her fan base, the data told a different story. In the week following the controversy, Caitlin Clark's social media following actually grew. Her engagement rate spiked. Her jersey sales didn't decline, they increased. The people who were angry were loud, but they were a minority. The silent majority, the people who don't comment on posts, who don't write tweets, who just quietly observe and form opinions, they responded positively to what they perceived as a young woman being genuine. And this is the lesson that the WNBA, its sponsors, and its athletes should be paying very close attention to. Because for years, the conventional wisdom has been that female athletes should minimize risk. Stay neutral. Don't offend. Don't take sides. Play the game, smile for the cameras, and let your performance speak for itself. But Caitlin Clark just proved that authenticity, even messy, controversial, politically complicated authenticity, is more valuable than manufactured neutrality. She proved that fans, real fans, the ones who actually buy tickets and jerseys and watch games, respond to realness. They can smell a PR-approved robot from a mile away and they're tired of it. The women's basketball world is watching. The next generation of players, the ones in college right now, the ones in high school, the ones who grew up watching Caitlin break records at Iowa, they're all watching. And the message they're receiving is clear. You don't have to shrink yourself to succeed. You don't have to hollow out your personality to be marketable. You can be a dominant athlete and a full human being at the same time. That might be Caitlin Clark's most important legacy. Not the three-pointers, not the assists, not the record-breaking performances, but the proof that a female athlete can be powerful and authentic and commercially successful all at once, without sacrificing any of the three. But there's one more piece to this story. One final detail that brings everything full circle in a way that is almost too perfect to be real. And it involves something Caitlin Clark said in a press conference that happened just this past week. Something that, when you hear it in the context of everything we've just discussed, will give you chills. 5 days after the Super Bowl, Caitlin Clark steps up to a podium for a routine preseason press conference. The room is packed. Not with the usual local beat reporters covering women's basketball. The room is full. National outlets, ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, cameras from networks that don't typically show up for WNBA press availabilities. Everyone is there for one reason. Everyone has the same question. And to her credit, Caitlin doesn't dodge it. She doesn't deflect. She doesn't give a rehearsed PR answer. A reporter asks her directly, "Caitlin, your reaction to Bad Bunny's halftime show went viral. There's been a lot of debate about what it means. Do you have anything to say about it?" And Caitlin Clark, with the same calm confidence she shows when she's staring down a defender with 3 seconds on the shot clock, leans into the microphone and says this: "I watched the halftime show. I thought it was incredible. The energy, the production, the cultural pride, it was beautiful to watch. I liked the post because I liked the performance. I commented on my teammate's post because I was proud of her for sharing something personal. That's it. I'm not going to apologize for enjoying music. I'm not going to apologize for supporting my teammates. And I'm definitely not going to let anyone tell me that appreciating someone's culture is a political statement. It's a human statement." She paused. "I play basketball. I love basketball. But I'm also a person. And people are allowed to have feelings and opinions and likes and dislikes that have nothing to do with anyone's agenda. If me liking an Instagram post is the most controversial thing happening in women's basketball right now, then I think we're in a pretty good place." The room went quiet for a beat, and then someone started clapping. And then the whole room was clapping. Reporters, camera operators, even a few of the team's PR staffers who had probably been dreading this moment. It was, by every account, a masterclass in authenticity. No spin, no hedging, no fear. Just a young woman standing at a microphone and refusing to be anyone other than exactly who she is. And that right there, that moment, is why Caitlin Clark is different. Not because she's the best shooter in women's basketball. Not because she fills arenas. Not because she sells jerseys. Those things are remarkable, but they're not what sets her apart. What sets Caitlin Clark apart is that in an era where every public figure is a carefully curated brand, where every word is filtered through a team of advisors, where authenticity has become a marketing strategy rather than a genuine quality, Caitlin Clark is still real, still human, still willing to like a post, support a friend, enjoy a performance, and face the consequences without blinking. The women's basketball world needed this moment more than anyone realized. Not because of Bad Bunny. Not because of the Super Bowl. Not because of politics. The women's basketball world needed to see that its biggest star is willing to be a full, complicated, authentic human being in public. And that doing so doesn't have to be career suicide. It can actually make you stronger. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. After everything we just went through, the performance, the backlash, the presidential criticism, the corporate anxiety, the teammate support, the press conference. After all of it, what do you actually think of Caitlin Clark? Not as a basketball player, as a person. Drop your answer in the comments. And if this video changed how you see her even a little bit, hit that subscribe button. Because the next chapter of Caitlin Clark's story is going to be even bigger than this one. And you're going to want to be here when it happens.